In the skies above California, tragedy struck once again. A U.S. Air Force B-52 Stratofortress crashed shortly after takeoff during a routine test mission from Edwards Air Force Base, killing all 8 people on board. The aircraft went down only minutes into the flight, and officials later confirmed that the crash was not survivable. At the time of this recording, investigators are still working to determine exactly what caused the disaster, and no official conclusion has been reached. Yet the loss of 8 lives has sent shockwaves through the military aviation community and reminded the world that even one of the most iconic bombers ever built is not immune to catastrophe. For many people, this may seem like an unprecedented event, but history tells a different story. More than 3 decades earlier, another B-52 crash stunned the United States Air Force. That accident claimed the lives of every crew member on board. It became one of the most studied aviation disasters in military history, not because of enemy action or equipment failure alone, but because of a chain of decisions, repeated warnings, and a culture that failed to prevent it. This is the story of that B-52, also known as ZAR 52's last flight. It was a day like any other until it wasn't. June 24, 1994. A date seared into the annals of U.S. military aviation history. On this day, 4 men boarded a mighty Boeing B-52 Stratofortress, an aircraft known for its brute strength and long-range power. But within minutes, those same skies would bear silent witness to a catastrophe that would shake the core of the U.S. Air Force. This is the story of ZAR 52, a mission that never should have flown and a tragedy that should never have happened. The Boeing B-52 Stratofortress, a Cold War-era Titan with an imposing wingspan of 185 feet and a maximum takeoff weight nearing 500,000 pounds. Designed for high-altitude strategic bombing, the B-52 was never intended for aerial stunts, sharp turns, or low-level acrobatics. But Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Bud Holland, an experienced pilot with over 5,000 flight hours, had a reputation not for his discipline, but for pushing the envelope far beyond acceptable safety margins. Known among peers for his flamboyant flying and daring maneuvers, Holland had a long-standing history of performing risky, unauthorized stunts. Despite repeated warnings and documented incidents, little action was taken to ground him. Fairchild Air Force Base, located near Spokane, Washington, was a hub for strategic air command during the Cold War. But in the early 1990s, the military landscape was changing. Strategic Air Command was dissolved in 1992, and Fairchild became home to Air Mobility Command and Air Combat Command units. Amid this transition, the base faced another looming tragedy. Just days before the B-52 crash, a separate incident shocked Fairchild when an armed airman, Dean Melberg, opened fire at the base hospital, killing 4 and wounding 22 others before being shot by security. The base was still in mourning when preparations began for an upcoming air show, the 1994 Fairchild Air Force Base Open House and Air Display. The flight on June 24th was meant to be a practice run for the upcoming air show. Lieutenant Colonel Holland, along with Lieutenant Colonel Mark McGean, co-pilot Colonel Robert Wolf, Fairchild's vice commander, and Lieutenant Colonel Ken Houston, navigator, boarded the B-52 known by its call sign ZAR 52. This was not the first time Holland had performed dangerously low passes or steep banking maneuvers in a B-52. His actions had been witnessed, documented, and discussed for years. A 1991 incident involved a dangerously low flyover at a high school event. Another in 1993 involved a 90 degrees bank turn, a stunt that alarmed air crews and violated numerous safety protocols. Despite these warnings, leadership failed to rein him in. In fact, Holland had been specifically requested for the demonstration flight. Lieutenant Colonel McGee, concerned for his own crew's safety, had previously stated he would not allow his personnel to fly with Holland. Yet on this day he was aboard. June 24, 1994, at approximately 2:16 p.m. local time, ZAR 52 took off from Fairchild Air Force Base. The plan, a short demonstration involving low flybys, steep turns, and touch-and-go maneuvers. The first pass was already aggressive, a low-level pass over the runway, far below safe altitude. Then, as the aircraft began a left turn around the control tower, Holland banked the aircraft into an extremely steep turn well over 60 degrees, far exceeding the B-52's design limits. In a matter of seconds, the left wing lost lift. The aircraft stalled and began an uncontrollable roll. At approximately 200 feet above the ground, the B-52 flipped, nosedived, and crashed in a fireball just yards from the base control tower. All 4 men aboard were killed instantly. The wreckage burned for hours. The crash was captured on video by base personnel and was later circulated globally, becoming one of the most widely seen military crash videos in history. The Air Force immediately convened an accident investigation board. The findings were stark and damning. The crash was caused by pilot error, specifically Holland's reckless airmanship and disregard for known operating limitations. Investigators noted that the B-52 had been flown well beyond its structural and aerodynamic capacity, but the report went further, citing systemic leadership failure, a culture of complacency, and failure to enforce discipline. Multiple opportunities to correct or discipline Holland were missed. Senior officers, aware of his behavior, took no definitive action. The accident was as much a failure of command as it was of one individual. The loss of ZAR-52 reshaped U.S. Air Force policies on flight discipline, risk management, and command accountability. A renewed emphasis on safety, standardization, and the moral courage to challenge dangerous behavior became central themes in training programs. Today, the story of the 1994 B-52 crash is required viewing for Air Force pilots and commanders. It serves not only as a cautionary tale, but also as a tragic reminder of the cost of silence. For men gave their lives that day, not in combat, but in the unforgiving hands of negligence. As investigators search for answers in the latest B-52 tragedy, one fact is already undeniable. The loss of a single bomber can leave a lasting mark on the families of the crew, the Air Force, and aviation history itself. But this is not the first time a B-52 disaster has raised difficult questions about safety, decision-making, and the price of mistakes in the cockpit. To understand why these accidents continue to resonate decades later, we have to look back at another catastrophic day, one that unfolded on June 24, 1994, at Fairchild Air Force Base. It was a flight that should never have ended in disaster, yet within moments it claimed the lives of all 4 crew members on board and became a permanent case study in military aviation.